restarted it. So we should be
Okay,
live
yeah.
now. Sorry about
Check.
these technical difficulties, guys. It's always the case anytime I use OBS. I need to figure out something else, but let's get back to it. So sorry about that. We're just going to pick up, I guess, from the start, and I'll let you. So yeah, Bo. I guess a shorter introduction. Go ahead,
Uh,
man.
so it's definitely working. Like people can hear us. People can
Okay,
hear me.
cool.
Check. Can I start? I don't want to have to like repeat myself 8 times.
No, you should be good to go.
All right. So yeah. Right now I am living in Chicago because I just moved there 4 months ago for a new design job that I'm super excited about. Working at Method Studios, doing motion design and 3D stuff and After Effects and all that fun stuff. So. Um, Yeah, and I guess I got my start in graphic design about 2.5 years ago, like the fall of 2014, after I had seen some of people's work, like a lot of people have. So I was like, kind of researching uh, what he was using and all that kind of stuff. And I came across Cinema 4D, and I was like, oh well, I guess I'll kind of give this a try because my last career endeavor that was originally in music and sound design and electronic music didn't quite work out for me. So yeah, I tried kind of giving the everydays a go for a long time. I did it for about a year and a half,
Okay.
um, and then after that, I was like, there's not really any like point in me like trying to compete with like people like doing every days. I'm never gonna win. So I just started. I kind of like stopped at that point, and kind of wanted to take on like a few or more bigger projects that took more than a day. And plus now with a full time job, it's really hard to always have that kind of output every single day. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely like practicing a lot,
A-
even if I don't like officially post something.
And
Um,
did you jump in 3D like cold turkey, like when you jumped in when you did the transfer from music to
yeah,
like three? It was cold turkey, and you went
yeah, it
straight
was it
from
was
okay.
it was just like, yeah, I'm tired of music. I'm gonna try cinema. And I had like my
That's
university had
interesting.
like a lifetime like lynda.com tutorial
Okay.
website
Mm-hmm.
account. So I was able to use that and kind of get started with like the basic intro to Cinema 4D classes. And from there, it was like I kind of discovered Grayscale Gorilla and all those other kind of like tutorial websites and people that make that kind of stuff. And yeah, after that, it was all just kind of like internet research, and that's pretty much how I got to where I am today.
Damn, son, that's pretty impressive. We'll just introduce Linus very quickly. People are freaking out by your because of your age, man.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Linus and I'm 18 years old and from Germany. So I also have this horrible German English accent, but I
It's
hope it's
okay.
okay for the short stream.
It's totally fine.
And yeah, so I started with art and design when I was 11 to 12 years old, I think, because I was watching a lot of YouTube videos and the people had these animated intro animations and I wanted to make these too, so I started with Cinema 4D and made horrible intro animations for years. And then 1 year ago I discovered hard surface design and Fusion 360 and I wanted to learn this because I really love the clean look and just this hard surface modeling. And yeah, since then I mostly do hard surface, but also abstract artworks sometimes.
That's pretty awesome, man. And how do you are you mainly freelancing right now as a 3D generalist, or do you
Um,
work full time or?
no, so at the moment I'm freelancing, but I'm planning to maybe get some education in design as well, so I can easier get to a full-time position.
Okay.
Yeah, but at the moment I am freelancing.
That's, I mean, yeah, both of you guys. And how, when did you start posting stuff on Instagram? Was it like from day one? and this question is to both of you guys, because you right now you do have quite a substantial following. How did that get started?
Bo, should you start?
Oh, I thought you were still talking, but yeah. I mean, I guess just the constant output and probably the hashtags help a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really like do anything like special as far as like extreme marketing or anything. I just kind of kept to a schedule, and I guess people generally like what I make. So
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of it. And just keeping a steady work ethic and output, I think, is what's most important when you're trying to get a following, because I think being consistent kind of keeps you on people's radar and stuff. So you're kind of always having something for people to look at.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Go ahead. Bill.
I don't really have anything to add to this, because you just have to post daily, or like, I don't know, maybe 3 times per week, and then you get a pretty decent following, I guess. So being active is like the only important part to get Instagram followers.
I think being active, but I mean, you know, I'm looking especially at your journey getting here, Bo. Like, I feel like more than being active is being consistent, because you don't like you don't jump into a new career without being consistent on the learning part of things, and get to the point where you master software and basically change careers. Like, that takes a lot of work. How long was the transfer from one to the next?
Probably just like a month or two. Like, after I got out of school, after I graduated university, I was just like, I don't know. It's really unfortunate, because I was kind of like just put down by like the music job market, and just, you know, constantly browsing, you know, online for jobs and stuff was really just like disappointing.
Okay.
And like the positions and stuff were like not at all like what I felt like I wanted to do. And I thought that like graphic design had a lot more like career flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of why. And after I got out of school, I was just kind of like, probably not the best like long term, at least for me. I mean, I think you kind of have to have like that drive to just like constantly be pushing yourself, and like for me, it wasn't in music. It was in graphic design, which I just kind of discovered after like 2 months of being out of school. It's kind of weird. I don't know how to explain it, but that's kind of what happened.
I mean, I totally get you. I discovered the world of concept art probably like 8 years. I just discovered it last year. Like the whole Learn Squared collective podcast archive. I was totally unaware of that whole side of entertainment design. Go ahead.
Yeah. One thing I want to add is that like after I got out of school, school, I felt like kind of trained me to like always be like looking for like a grade on things, and just like having like professors like always kind of breathing down your neck, like, oh, you know, this is wrong. And once I got out of school, I was constantly like kind of second guessing myself, like when I was trying to make music, like, oh, is this, you know, right? Am I using like the right chord changes? Like, is this, you know, musically correct and stuff like that? So my output was like really low, because I was trying to be like, I guess, too academic about it.
Mm-hmm.
And since I didn't have that kind of like traditional like background in art, you know, there was nobody kind of telling me what to do and like what was right and wrong. I kind of just discovered for myself like what I liked, and I didn't have like, you know, I didn't always have to be like worried about like if I'm gonna like get an A or something on it.
Yeah, gotcha.
It was just kind of for practice.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, I think like going to school for like such a creative field like music kind of took like all the fun out of it for me, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just kind of my perspective. I'm sure, you know, it might work great for other people.
It's interesting that you've discovered this after finishing school, and Linus is like right there with you, trying to figure out what to do going into school. You know.
And people, change so much in like their early 20s and stuff. It's just like you can't know for sure what you're gonna end up at. So
yeah, man. Linus, people are asking, are you and Bo friends?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we know each other for, I don't know, a year or so, because we are together in a Slack chat, and yeah, so this isn't the first time that we are meeting.
Okay, and from what I get, you guys are both are both part of the same collective, 3 Douchebags. Is that it?
That's right.
That's a really great name. Linus, can you talk a little bit about it? Like how did that get started? How did you guys got involved into that?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a secret group, or at least it was like half a year ago maybe.
Okay, it's totally not secret anymore.
Yeah, and I don't really know much about who founded it, or what the original purpose of it was, but now we are just inviting friends, and then we can talk about 3D and helping each other and share inspiration. So yeah, I mean, it's just like a group of people who do the same. It's nothing special.
Okay. Bo, do you want to...
Yeah, it originally started as like a small Skype chat, and then we kind of transitioned into Slack just because managing a lot of users on Skype is pretty clunky. So
yeah, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that was in the very, very early days.
Cool. Bo, do you wanna run us through perhaps some of your work, and is there, if there's anything you'd like to sort of break down for the viewers?
I mean, I have this project open now. Like, is my screen being shared or what?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess I was just gonna start with this kind of like abstract, like hard surface thingy, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, in most of my pieces, I don't really go into it, like especially with hard surface. I'm not like an engineer or anybody that's like doing anything to be used like in the real world. So a lot of this stuff is not meant to be like functional. It's more just kind of, what kind of interesting shapes can I make?
Okay.
So
do you get reference though from like real machinery cuts and things like that? Like where do you get your references from?
Yeah, like real life, and I've been looking a lot at Vitaly Bulgarov's work and Gavril Klimov, who are both like amazing hard surface designers. So I'm constantly like, kind of comparing and contrasting, like, okay, like where do they put these cuts? Because like in like indentations in their hard surfaces, because I think a lot of their work is it has like a really nice flow to the shapes. So that's something like I'm constantly like thinking about is, okay, like, where could this use some more detail, and like why are they putting certain shapes where they are? Is it for like just an aesthetic reason, or is there some sort of like functional reasoning behind that?
And is that something right now you're probably more focusing on abstract stuff, but are you like vitally interested in having like full on not necessarily like mech size, but like 3D printing, because you're using Fusion 360 right now, which is a CAD based software?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason for that was just because you have so much more freedom. You're not constrained to like polygons and topology like you would be in Cinema or another like, or 3ds Max or something. You can just make cuts and bevels and chamfers wherever you want, and it just kind of works.
Okay.
So, and trying to do all that kind of detail is not impossible, but would definitely take a lot more like thinking about edge flow and like where you're gonna like put certain things so that like they bevel nicely and stuff. And this kind of just is like a hard surface like playground. I guess you can just like draw out sketches and shapes, and like doesn't really matter if they're all quads or whatever, because it would matter if it's going to be used in production and animating. But since all my pieces are generally just like, they kind of sit by themselves and they're not animating or deforming in any way, I'm not too concerned about topology or anything.
Okay. And that's mainly because you're also using these images, like these pieces, for like static images.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
Can you just sort of, show us a little bit of the workflow that you go through when you build something like this?
Yeah. So I mean, like Fusion has a really cool timeline feature at the bottom that I'm kind of scrolling by now.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can like really go back to like the very beginning and kind of see like how it took like initial shapes. Like I kind of scroll by and just like I started with this kind of like slanty square thing and just kind of drew out a another shape and then scroll a little bit and made that cut. So like if I was going to go in there and kind of do something similar, a lot of working in Fusion is about like sketches.
Okay.
So if I just click on like, if I want to make a new shape or something, I'll click on this line thing and just choose like, okay, what plane or surface model do I want to work on? And so generally you kind of want to place it like where you want the shape to go. So I'll just like click on this right here and like, okay, now I want to like draw this out. And I'm just clicking like where I want it to go. And then once it's done, you just click stop sketch, or wait, oh, there you go. And now if I wanted to like extrude it or make a cut or something, just right click and there's a little like press pull,
Okay.
which is basically like cutting or extruding. And it's, you can either press down, you can kind of see like, a preview of how it's going to look. And you also have other options too, like you can join it, which doesn't really make sense because it wouldn't really do anything new.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you wanted just to be a totally new body and not have it affect the shape at all, you can just extrude outwards and press OK, and now you have a new shape. So yeah.
So basically, it's mainly a Boolean workflow, and it seems that the extrude and the cut through, the Boolean tool are more or less the same thing, just depending on whether you move up or down. Is that it?
Yeah. So and there's like a whole nother like work space inside of Fusion that's like dealing a bit more with like organic forms, I guess.
Okay.
But I have never really used that. I mostly just kind of stuck to doing like really kind of rectangular based shapes and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And if Fusion wants to load again, I don't know, I might have.
Linus, you also mainly use Fusion, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing, doing hard surface and why did you go? Is that the first software you learned, or did you also start with Cinema 4D or?
So Fusion is the first CAD software I learned, but originally I started with Cinema 4D. Yes.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. One of them being, is it possible to render photorealistic, like straight into in Fusion?
Yeah, it has its own like path
Render
tracing engine, which
Okay.
is decent,
Mm-hmm.
but not really for like I would say like final quality. I mean, it's very bare bones. I can just go into it now. So you kind of get this like OpenGL sort of shaded thing, and then you click the in-canvas render, and then it sort of has its own like lighting and things like that. But you don't have, at least I haven't found a way to even like rotate like HDRIs. It kind of has like a kind of built-in pack of like HDRs and stuff you can use, but I think probably using another software like Keyshot, if you wanted to do like professional quality like product renders and stuff, would probably be the way to go. But I mean, this is like decent if you want to just get a like an overview of kind of how how it's going to look.
And can you create your own shaders in Fusion, or like what's your general workflow? Do you generally just like model in Fusion and then move to let's say Keyshot or Octane in Cinema 4D? What's your general workflow?
Yeah, generally I might like use the like in-app in Fusion render just to kind of like, okay, you know, do I like these colors before I export out of Cinema, so then I have like an idea of like where I want to put things. And if you click like this little appearance icon right here, you can kind of bring up a window with that has kind of a list of materials in it. And so, you know, you can kind of click down and they have some kind of basic like paints and metals and stuff like that. So if I just like go into one of these, and it kind of has like, you know, some built-in shaders, and you can just like drag it on to whatever body you want. So yeah, it has like different parameters for doing like bodies if you want like a full like covering of all of a like body's faces, or you can just do like individual faces, which will just be like, you know, basic your like any polygons like I have highlighted. You can just drag a material onto that.
Okay, but it seems a little more limited than what you could do with
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't give you like near the kind of creative control, and like you can't bring in like your own like, I don't think you can bring in like your own like roughness maps or anything like that. You're kind of just stuck with what Fusion has. So, but for getting kind of an initial like idea of how I want something to look, I think this kind of works fine for me. And then when I'm ready to actually render it, I bring it out into Cinema.
Okay. Okay, Linus, what's your workflow in general?
Yeah, so it's kind of the same. So I also export from Fusion into Cinema 4D and then use Octane renderer.
And do you get, when you move to Fusion, like when you move export your model to Cinema, do you have to deal with like, does it break the topology? Is there some sort of hiccup that you always have to deal with?
No, so Bo and I use the same techniques, I think, and we use another software called Moments of Inspiration, I think.
Okay, Moi.
3D.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And Moi has a really cool feature that you can convert it to a quad and n-gon mixed mesh, so you don't have triangles anymore, and then it usually works really good inside Cinema, so I never really had problems with it.
Gotcha. Travis is asking, and this is to Ipzoll, but to both of you, I guess. Would you ever go back to traditional polygon modeling, like now after you've tried something like Fusion?
Well, the thing is that I've never really learned the traditional polygon modeling, so I'd say no.
Okay.
And yeah, inside Fusion I can basically create whatever I want, and with polygon modeling I have a really limited knowledge, so I'll definitely stick to Fusion.
Gotcha. What about you, Bo?
I think it depends on the context. Like, if this is going to be used in production where, you know, you need that kind of like clean topology and stuff, then I think having that knowledge of like proper modeling in traditional polygons is like really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would kind of depend for me. When I need to do like really kind of intricate hard surface stuff like this, like I would kind of dread doing it in like, you know, polygons and stuff, just because it would require a lot more just thinking ahead and like, okay, you know, if I put this cut here, this bevel here, then I'm kind of going to be like stuck with it, or I'd have to go, you know, back and just make sure I'm saving enough versions so that if I want to do a change, I can go back to that file before I did whatever like bevel or something, and do that. And that's like, I guess another cool thing about Fusion is that you have like basically an unlimited history with all
so cool.
of your bevels, and chamfers and stuff. So like, you know, if I didn't want this bevel right here, you can just like click on wherever the feature is, and then right click and go to edit feature, and it will go back to the timeline, I think. Yep, there it is. Oh no. There it is. Okay, so yeah, it kind of highlights it right there.
Wow.
So I think it should bring up a window. There we go. Oops. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it takes a minute to think about it. But once it collects itself, then you have the ability to kind of go back and be like, okay, like I want it bigger or smaller, or, you know, and then once you like it, you can just click OK, and then it's going to recalculate, and everything should come back in a few seconds. It's just with like really complicated, once you get really complicated models and stuff, it can kind of get bogged down once you want to go back and make changes. So something you gotta keep in mind, I guess.
So you could, you know, let's say do your chamfers or your edge bevels and then work, I don't know, like an hour through, and then realize that you need it to be a little thinner. You could just go back in history, edit that, and then it would just update to your all your recent work.
Yeah, and I think that's also like part of the workflow in like actual engineering, is that you have to have that kind of flexibility where, you know, a certain measurement might change. So I think it's a good choice like they made in the software to kind of have that flexibility, so that you don't have to, you know, go back and start from scratch or like kind of rebuild the topology, which would be very time consuming.
That's super rad, man. Do you wanna is there anything you'd like to show us, perhaps in cinema or?
I mean, I could show, I guess maybe like some of my like rendering maybe techniques. I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So let me find the other. Okay. So yeah, this is the model after it comes out of MOI, or Moment of Inspiration. So I guess, I don't know, maybe I could, before I do that, maybe I could show how I get the model from Fusion into like into a Cinema 4D. Do people want to see that, or is that something like Linus wants to show? Because I don't want to totally be like dominating here.
Yeah, I can show that later.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, I can just kind of go or continue with my kind of Cinema 4D scene here.
Yep.
So yeah, this is like a render I did a little while ago, and I'll just bring up the live viewer here, just so you can kind of see.
Linus, are you also on Octane or?
Yes.
Gotcha.
All right. So yeah, I mean, after I kind of bring in the shape, then for me it's kind of like, okay, you know, how do I want to light it? What do I think are like interesting camera angles and stuff? So I kind of have like a few different angles here of like interesting shots that I thought looked cool. And recently I got the Grayscale Gorilla HDRI link for Octane, so that's been like huge in kind of just quickly browsing through a lot of different HDRIs for getting some like interesting lighting and reflections and like roughness to kind of make things like pop a little bit more.
Gotcha.
So yeah, after I kind of choose like what lighting I like, then it's like, okay, where do I want to place the camera, things like that. Any questions that people have like specifically, I guess?
Yeah, people in the chat, if you have any questions, just feel free to post them, and I'll have the guys go over them. But perhaps we can switch to Linus right now, and yeah, just go, Linus, if you could show us like your workflow from basically, I guess, going from Fusion to Moi, and how do you export your prep your mesh pretty much.
Yeah, of course, I can do that.
Alright, let's do that.
Okay, then I'll share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. tell me when you can see it.
Yep, you're live.
Okay, so I will quickly open a model that isn't as complex. So yeah, this one will do. Yeah, so here I have my finished model inside Fusion. And to bring it into Cinema 4D, what I do is export it as an IGS file.
Mm-hmm.
So I will just throw it on my desktop and hit save. And yeah, now it's loading. Okay, and then I go to Moi and import it.
What is Moi exactly?
Basically, it's pretty similar to Fusion. So Vitaly Bulgarov is using it, I
Okay.
guess. And yeah, so it's also a CAD software, and you can do all the Boolean operations as well. But Moi doesn't has the timeline feature. So yeah, maybe this could be a reason to use Fusion because it got the timeline. But I'm pretty sure that both softwares have like the good and the bad sides, and you just have to decide what you want to learn.
Yeah, that
Okay,
timeline
so
looks pretty awesome. I'm mainly modeling in Modo right now, and I use
yeah,
the exact same, I guess, Boolean workflow that I see you guys use in Fusion. But yeah, I mean, you always have to undo. You have a limited amount of undos.
yeah,
Like at some point, like doing something so detailed, you end up with like such a high polygon count that it starts slowing your system down. And
yeah.
so you guys are convincing me, man.
Yeah, and here inside Moi, I just hit save, and here I can choose OBJ, and I will just save it out. And now what I can do here is go to quads and triangles or use n-gons. Usually I use n-gons, and there you can just yeah, like change how many polygons you want. And
Why do you
because
choose
usually
n-gons instead of triangles?
to be honest, I don't really
It works for you. That's pretty much it.
yeah, it just works, but I think triangles would work as well. But this one is cleaner because sometimes when inside Cinema, I can show that later, but if I wanted to select this big part here, then I could do it. But if I use triangles, then you will see it in a second, then I couldn't select things as easy.
Okay, I got you.
So yeah, and then with n-gons you can also avoid polygons that are very small, so I usually set it to this. And yeah, now I can just export it and open Cinema. Just make a new file here. Yeah, and then I can open it and it works, yeah. So here you can see the mesh. It looks
Yeah.
okay, I guess.
It looks pretty clean.
And yeah, and this is what I mean, that I can now easily select just this part here as example. So yeah. And I also have all the different bodies here. So as example, this screw here, I can, let me quickly center the access point, I can move everything, and it's just really easy to work in. Yeah.
That looks awesome. And basically, the screenshot that I see in the Octane Live viewer is
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
composition
it's from the
of.
previous.
Okay.
Yes, it's I can show it actually. The final render was this one here.
Gotcha.
So this was the final render, and what I did was basically just importing my model here and putting it in a cloner, adding a random effector for the different heights here, and that was basically it. It was really easy to create, and the most work was of course done in Fusion.
What I enjoy, like I was looking at your Instagram account, and you have like these cool GIFs, like of
yeah.
pistons and pipes. Like, can you actually show a couple? I don't know if people have seen them, but they're really fun.
So should I just go to my
Yeah.
Instagram or okay?
Yeah, whichever
Or
works
right,
for you.
maybe. Oh no, Instagram is better because the videos don't loop on my computer, I think. So okay. Yeah, so I animated some of them, and it's also really easy to do. And
it's just a tiny, like loop animation, but it makes it so
Yeah.
much.
yeah,
I think it adds to the how'd you call it, because you're dealing with hard surface, and just seeing that movement sort of reinforces the machinery aspect of it, and gives it
yeah,
it gives it a sense of functionality, even though the piece might be abstract.
yes,
It makes it feel as though there's actually a solid purpose behind it.
yeah.
Someone's asking, what's your workflow for how do you go about building those GIFs?
Okay, so for the animations, I was using a really nice time saver. It's the plugin by Grayscale Gorilla. It's called Signal. I can show this. Okay, wait. How do I go about this now? So basically, what it does is it kind of gives you a way to make a procedural animation. So I can select this body here, and then I can put a signal tag on it, and then I can just drag like any value on it, and then you can add a modifier. Now it should. Okay, right. Yeah, now it's like animating and it's looping. So it was really easy to animate with this plugin.
And that's Signal by Grayscale Gorilla?
Yes, exactly.
So you're not using any keyframes or anything?
No, just because this way is a lot faster.
That's pretty awesome. Bo, someone's asking, how was your transition from Arnold to Octane?
Pretty easy. I mean, I think there's a few there's a learning curve with anything, but I think it was a little bit more familiar in a way, going back to the layer-based system that's more present in Octane. It has a node editor, but I don't find it as powerful or as responsive as Arnold, I guess. So most of the time I'm working in the layers like regular Cinema 4D materials in Octane.
Gotcha. Yeah, Linus, what can you explain? What is this piece that you have here?
Yeah, so I was inspired by
Vitaly.
a really cool. Yes, exactly. So Vitaly Bulgarov made a really cool robot model of a dog, and I wanted to do something similar. And what I did to start out to get a shape that looks at least similar to a dog, it was that I imported a mesh. I downloaded this one from the internet. It was a free model, and then I could import it and shape my robot to it. So
wow.
that was really cool. I can go back to the timeline. Maybe that could explain it a bit. So I can just hit play, and okay, this is all boring. Right, I have to do it per hand. I think this is. Oh my god. Okay, I can't stop it now, I think.
It's okay, just talk about it.
Because I get issues when I try to play it.
Just talk about it, it's fine, no worries.
Okay, yeah, so you can see how I started with a rectangle, and then I cutted parts out and added parts, and
this is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of like blocking out, so you can see that the legs are completely different from the final legs, and I was just trying to get the form.
Okay.
And here, I was just experimenting around, and yeah.
Do you always how'd you call it? Start, what's right now you're taking this reference from a dog and all of that. Is that always how you build your pieces, like to make sure that the shapes are realistic and this and that? How do you gather your reference? How do you get started with your idea in general?
Yeah, so usually I don't really look a lot for references. I usually just start and then the project evolves from it. So yeah, I don't really have any images that I looked at. I just started out with rectangles and adding cuts to get like a really cool sci-fi look, and I wasn't thinking too much about it. So this one also started with a rectangle, and then I started to just adding details, and yeah.
Can you like?
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, what I wanted to say is that usually I only design one side and then I split the body and mirror it. So that's like really cool to save time. Yeah, here you can see I splitted it and
Yeah, this
adding
is
more
something.
detail.
This is something Marius was showing also in his
Yeah, I was
last
seeing.
stream, which totally makes sense because it's such a time saver.
Yes, exactly.
This looks really awesome, man.
Yeah, so this one was basically the finished side, and then I just mirrored it, and it was finished.
And how long do you, like, is this an everyday project or?
Yeah, so this was made in one day,
Okay.
and I try to be active on my Instagram, but usually I'm kind of busy, and yeah, in the last weeks I couldn't be very active, but I try to change that in the future.
Cool. If you know, if someone were if someone is trying to get it into 3D and like, would you recommend them to? And I guess this might be easier for Bo to answer, but to start learning the fundamentals when it comes to like poly modeling, in a software like Cinema 4D or Modo or whatever is out there, or do you think it's actually the learning curve with a CAD software is much easier?
So for me personally, it was very easy to learn Fusion compared to Cinema, and I just think that if you would start out, then you will have more like the feel of getting or right, how do I say it? I just want to say that I think with Fusion you will get faster results, and you feel like you learn something. And if you spend like hours on learning polygon modeling, you have more important knowledge maybe, but I just guess that quite a few people would get pretty demotivated from this.
Gotcha.
So maybe Fusion just for fun and for exploring, and then after a few months or years you could learn proper polygon modeling. I don't know if that would be smart, but maybe this is what I would do.
What do you think, Bo?
I'm kind of, yeah. What Linus said is pretty accurate. I think. I think you should like start in a more like traditional 3D package like Max or Maya or Cinema, and kind of like learn how shapes and forms like work in 3D, and then you go into Fusion and you kind of already have that knowledge of like, okay, I'm gonna have to like work with polygons eventually. So what do I need to like account for when I'm exporting this and like bringing it into another 3D package? Unless, I mean, I don't have the kind of like real world experience where maybe like you can do all of your work inside of Fusion and like never touch another 3D package. But for my work personally, that's and somebody that might want to like do motion graphics and like not so much the kind of scientific engineering side of 3D. Yeah, that's kind of my opinion.
Gotcha. Can you what? Can you just tell me very quickly for the chat, like what's your equipment, like how many cards, what do you have in your system?
Do you mean me or Bo?
Both
No,
of you.
Linus, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so I have just a single GTX 1070 and it works pretty well with Octane. So it's definitely enough for me. And yeah, I also have 24 gigabytes of RAM and a pretty old Intel Xeon. And yeah, that's it.
And you, Bo?
Yeah, so I built my computer. I was actually a Mac user for like a really long time, and I switched over last summer and got a new PC. So this one has like I think an i7 6950K or something, 6-core processor, 32 gigs of RAM, and three 1080s.
Okay.
I had to do a pretty big VR job last summer that was basically the reason why I got this PC, because before that I was doing everything like on an 8-core like trash can Mac Pro with Arnold, and trying to do 4K renders in VR was just not going to happen. So yeah, had to put this machine together, but yeah, very pleased with it so far.
Okay. Linus, a quick question.
Yeah.
Travis is asking when you're going to start messing around with forms.
Yeah, so Travis and I were talking about the forms feature of Fusion a lot, and I was kind of scared of it because it's new, but I will start using forms soon. So basically the forms are really powerful, but I just really love the basic modeling tab inside Fusion. So I was sticking to this until now.
So you're not planning to switching workflow anytime soon?
Well, I have to, I guess, but I don't really want to yet. But it's just something you have to do.
That's cool, man. So you mentioned you're looking into like studying, going back to studies, and do you have any idea how you'd like to sort of apply your knowledge of 3D and design and all that? Are you looking more for like concept art, or more on the engineering and product design side of things, or motion graphic? What sort of appeals to you right now?
Yeah, so the thing is that I change my styles and interests like kind of often. So
Okay.
I don't really know. I'm interested in so many topics that I haven't really focused on one thing yet. So I can't really tell that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and maybe I can show a really cool technique I found out here in the stream,
Yeah.
because as you can see, this one is like a wave shape, and what I did was using Adobe Illustrator. Let me open it for a second, and then importing the Illustrator file to get the wave. Why is it loading so long? Okay, there it is.
Okay, so you're able to bring in like vector,
Yes.
vector path, and okay.
Okay, and as you can see, I placed it really weird, because when you have it placed in the center of your document, then somehow it won't be centered in Fusion, because the center point of imported vector shapes inside Fusion is here.
Okay.
So it's really important to just drag it to this point, and then you can easily import it. So you can just go to insert and insert SVG. That's the only supported file type. And yeah, I have it inside here. And then I can just drag it in, yes.
Okay, do you have to save it in a certain legacy format, or does it work just as...
Well, I simply clicked on save as SVG and it worked, so
Okay.
I can... Let's see what it's... Yes, I use the standard settings here, so SVG 1.1. I don't know much
I know
about this.
in Cinema I believe you have to save it as version 8.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't do that, it generally won't read the file.
Oh, yeah, that's bad.
I'm looking at the chat very quickly to see if I've missed someone's question. But yeah, if Linus, is there anything you'd like to show us? If not, can we go through your some of the work you've done? Is there a project that you'd like to talk about?
I think I could show one more thing, and it is this one here, because what you can see here is also made inside Fusion. So there is this new slicer plugin for Fusion, and it generates these really cool slices here. And usually it's used in 3D printing, but I was just using it for making abstract artworks. So what you can do is, let me just quickly make like a cube, something really simple. So yeah, just like this. And what I can do now is get this one to the slicer software. Yeah, so it's like an external program, but you launch it from Fusion.
Okay.
And it's free as well. I could try to find a link for this later when maybe Rainbow is sharing his screen again. So yeah, and here you can select the technique. I think I used this one, yes. And it's really cool, so you can change where the slices are going.
Gotcha.
And yeah, you can also make some really cool abstract pieces with this. Yeah, so I don't know if I have anything else to show, or if anyone has questions.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them. Bo, is there anything you'd like to show? Like from your website, or a personal project that you'd want to sort of show to the viewers?
I mean, a lot of it is kind of the same, like general workflow.
Mm-hmm.
I have like, more Fusion projects. If anybody's kind of interested in like maybe like a different shape or something, like this one's kind of very, like the one I showed is very kind of rectangular, but I also have like, one that's more of like circular.
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen. We'll go through it.
Opening up the project.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay.
Can you see me?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So yeah, like this was gonna be like kind of a full circle, but I basically just started with a circle sketch and then cut the bodies so that I kind of got this like pizza slice of it. And since I knew it was going to be just like symmetrical, I could just mirror it across in Cinema and kind of get the full shape. And I guess like one thing that kind of got me in the beginning when I was trying to like mirror shapes like this in Cinema, I'll just open it really quick. Yeah, so for some reason, like when I would export the shape out of Moment of Inspiration with like, and it had all like the smooth normals and stuff. For some reason, like just using like the regular symmetry object to kind of like do a quick like clone across an axis would like break that shading. So you would kind of get that like desirable faceting and stuff across shapes.
Gotcha.
So like what I had to do was like instead of doing a symmetry object, I would just like copy the shape, and then if you go into the coordinates and like change this scale to -1, then you get that perfect symmetry. But you're also going to keep that shading, which for some I don't know. It's beyond me why the symmetry object breaks the Phong shading, but that's just how it is, and that's how I've done the symmetry since then. So then you can just like kind of go until you have all the shapes again.
So for this piece, for instance, would it be able to, like, would you be able to sort of design the the piece like as a flat 2D vector shape, bring it into Fusion, and then sort of extrude all the different parts and elements and the cutouts? Would that be something efficient or more efficient, or would it just be like, would it take more time actually?
Are you talking about like making like designs in like Illustrator or something and
Yeah.
then bringing them in?
Yeah.
For
this
maybe?
piece, because when I'm looking at it from a top perspective, like it's different shapes that could easily be done
right.
using vectors. But then if I did that and brought it in, because it almost looks like a UI element, almost like a flat UI thing. If I brought it into Fusion, extruded, how hard would it be to get to the same results?
I mean, that's not, I've never like done any of that, but
Okay.
I feel like, it would work if you kind of wanted everything on like to be extruded the same length, but then I guess like you would have to use different grayscale values or something to kind of get things to be like extruded and cut at different depths.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly how that would work. And plus just kind of getting that like really fine detail. Like you see here, I have like a really tiny bevel.
Yeah.
Doing that all in Illustrator. I mean, maybe you could kind of bring in just like the basic kind of outline and do all like the kind of finishing touches like bevels and chamfers like after the fact. But
okay.
Yeah, I don't really work like that. I think for me, I try to like stay in one program as much as I can, because I think that just kind of helps me focus. I'm not like always having to like bounce back and forth to make changes, because I think sometimes I just get like caught up in all the file exporting and like making sure all the versions are like up to date and stuff, and it can kind of like mess with me. So I try to kind of keep it all in whatever application I'm working in.
Gotcha. And yeah, so and then from there you move it, like, just you only get out once you start rendering and sort of polishing your final image. Do you do anything in post, like in Photoshop, or do you generally stop once you have like something you're happy with from Octane?
Yeah, I mean, I try to get like 90%, 95% of like all the colors and stuff that I want in 3D, and then like really I'm terrible at Photoshop. Like I don't know why. Like I would almost rather do like post work on a still image in After Effects, just because it just, I don't know, for some reason Photoshop doesn't make sense to me. So most of my work is just like Google Nick, that kind of suite of like very basic kind of post effects, and just like that analog effects plugin or standalone application. And I just kind of like, it has basic controls for like contrast and like color control, but I'm not, I guess I just don't need to like go into as much like fine detail as you could get in Photoshop. So usually that's enough for me.
Gotcha.
And just kind of putting some like, filter on it to kind of bring out a certain color if it looks a bit too dull or too just like plain 3D out of cinema.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Linus?
Yeah, so I'm kind of the opposite. I'm a lot in Photoshop, and yeah, so
is there anything you could open?
Yeah, of course. Let me just search for something, and then I can share my screen.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's Fusion is definitely appealing. It just seems that the learning curve is pretty flat compared to anything else. It even like people generally will suggest Cinema 4D for any 3D beginner, but it seems that Fusion is even easier to learn than Cinema, because I personally find Modo easier than Cinema to learn.
I've never touched Modo, so I can't comment on that.
Yeah, same for me.
It's because it's pretty close to what I see you guys do in Fusion, except you're dealing with polygons. So that's the only thing that I could see that would sort of I wouldn't have to deal if I went with Fusion.
Yeah. I think because Fusion is just so like focused, it's not trying to be a full like animation suite. It's like just for modeling, so it's really like bare bones as far as like the UI and the tools and stuff.
Yeah.
You don't there's really like, not a whole lot of menus to go fishing through, and you don't have to like go through like any complicated like material systems and like animation and stuff. So yeah, I mean, definitely to like understand the basics, it doesn't take much time at all, I don't think.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I found a few Photoshop files.
Okay, just go ahead and switch.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically I don't really do very much, but like very much layers or something, but the raw renders are usually way too dark and don't have color in it, and then I bring that inside Photoshop. And same here, like, oops. Yeah, the original one was red, and then I changed it to orange and bring in some light, and yeah.
So it's
do the same.
mainly using what are you using there? Like color, like curves and levels and
Yeah, curves, levels, and also the color lookup. And here you have like these I forgot the name, but
it's like
yeah, you can see what
presets.
they do. Yeah,
Okay, it's almost like
that's
the
really cool. I use these a lot.
okay from like old film how'd you call it? Like camera
Mm.
films, like the
Oh yeah.
presets to give
Yeah,
you the different tones and okay.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
guys in the chat, we're going to probably wrap the stream in 5-10 minutes. So if you have any final questions, just go ahead and ask them. And people are asking, one question that's been coming over and over is about the fog in Octane, like volumetric light in Octane. I don't know if you guys use any of it or
Um,
I've never gotten it to work how I think it should.
okay.
It's always just kind of been like some like big blob of like dust on my screen. It's like
Gotcha.
not even like fog looking.
yeah.
I think In Life Thrill has like a new series coming out pretty soon. They're gonna go over all that.
Yes, I
Um,
think it comes out next month.
yeah, so I would wait for that, but yeah.
Yeah. So I use fog sometimes. Like here, you can see in the background of the wood there's some octane fog, but I don't really do these foggy scenes. So I think this was also the only project where I used it. So I can't really say much about it.
Gotcha. Okay, this one is not necessarily related to 3D, but I guess to inspiration. A question's been coming up about what anime have you guys been watching lately?
Oh God.
Yeah, rare. I don't watch animes at all, so
Okay, Bo
this is more a
seems to
question
be
for
guilty
Bo.
of this one.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of like a lot of like the recent stuff. Like I got like a Crunchyroll subscription and stuff, so now I'm just like, firing it up every like day for like 2 hours and just like binging on a few shows. Um,
What are your favorites?
I mean, my favorites that are like like more like influential than just like the trash that's like mostly aired right now. I mean, Evangelion was probably like a really big influence. Just like those really unique robot designs. Um, I take a lot of inspiration from um, Ghost in the Shell, of course.
Yeah,
That's been coming up a lot now. The movie's like coming out and like
yeah.
Ash is posting a bunch of really cool renders and stuff. Um,
I grew up with
uh,
anime. That was I wasn't aware. I mean I wasn't familiar with like the DC or Marvel world for the
mhm.
longest time until late in my teens. But I grew up with, and in Europe, like Linus, you generally have, I mean, European comics, but you're
Yeah.
generally more exposed to Dragon Ball Z, Saint Seiya, like those were
Yeah.
the starting ones. Fist of the North Star and some of my favorites are like Berserk. I don't know if you Ninja Scroll. Like some of those ones are pretty awesome. And I at one point I sort of got um, like disappointed when they started introducing 3D to like animes. Like when you see that there's how'd you call it, like 3D modeling in the animation. For some reason it took away the feel of like older animes from my childhood. So I have a harder time watching some of the newer stuff that's been coming out. But anything like Attack of the Titans, all of that stuff it takes me back, way back, and I love that sort of like really strong storytelling, compelling characters and so on. That one's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
If you have anyone to recommend, Bo, now's the time.
Any what?
Any anime or any
anime?
Yeah.
Gosh, what would be like I mean, all the classics, like Cowboy Bebop, FLCL. Yeah, I mean the ones that kind of like set like the bar, I guess, for like what anime could be, and just like the kind of like detail and stuff that goes into that. I think those have really like left an impact on my work.
That's awesome. So guys, no, Pokemon is definitely not in my favorite. So I think this is a wrap. It's been pretty awesome. You guys killed it. People are super happy in the chat from like the tips and just knowledge you've been sharing. And like I know I'll be jumping into Fusion like in the next month or so, because
yeah, you really should.
Yeah, it's answering a lot of the issues I'm having. I know that I do need a new system, just because that's how it is with 3D. The more you go, the beefier of a machine you need, just because like you start being blocked. Like your creativity suffers from like the lack of equipment, because everything is requiring so much power now. But yeah, so thank you guys for Bo and Linus. Thank you guys for coming on the stream. This was super awesome. It was super awesome to have you guys, and hopefully we'll get you guys on again in the future. Thank you everyone for just showing up, asking questions, and supporting these guys. And this is the second session we've had. We had some technical difficulties with the audio at the beginning, but I'm working on it to make sure those don't happen again. I'm waiting on some new equipment as well to make everything easier. So thank you for your patience. There you go, a big fat smiley face for you guys. And
thank you, Mohammed.
Yeah, anytime.
Thanks for inviting me.
Anytime. Next week we'll have Paul Paulino. Go check him out on online. You guys will be pretty excited about that one. He's a texture artist and look dev artist. He's been working on pretty great movies, on the upcoming Power Rangers, Miss Pettigreen, Independence Day, and all these big blockbusters. That one's going to be super exciting as well. So thank you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care, guys.
All right, peace.
Ciao.
Hey, bye.